Hello, my name's Christian Hunt and I'm the founder of Human Risk, a company that specialises in bringing behavioural science to ethics and compliance. And in this series of short videos, I'm going to be speaking to Professors Benjamin van Rooij and Danny Sokol about a new book they've co-authored called the Cambridge Handbook of Compliance. In each of the videos, I'm going to ask Danny and Benjamin to talk a little bit about one of the key themes covered in the handbook. To find out how you can buy the book and to download the introduction for free, stay tuned to the end of the video. One of the things that's interesting is people tend to think traditionally of compliance as being very rigid. If you sort of ask people what's it about, it's about rules and regulations and sort of tight limits. And what you're suggesting with your approach contains implicitly a degree of experimentation, and that one ought to approach it much more like a discipline such as marketing would, where you see what works and adjust accordingly. But that isn't implicit in the traditional approaches. I wondered how, when we think about compliance 2.0, you can sort of reflect on the nature of trial and error and experimentation and how that can help achieve the objectives you're talking about.
To grow any organization requires innovation, or you're left behind. It's striking how, if that is true, and that seems to be true, right? Only the most innovative companies end up surviving long term, or other organizations, because they're able to adapt. It's striking to me how very conservative they are with their own compliance, even while they like to press the fact that they're an innovative company. So really, this is about aligning a company's or other form of organization's mission, saying that we are innovative, we can adapt, and saying, let's take that seriously and make the compliance function equally adaptive.
Yes, and I think it's also what people do you put in the compliance function. So going back to, if you have traditionally trained lawyers, they're not necessarily going to be the experimenters. I mean, maybe there's some that might, and I've met some that do, but I think if you set up groups within those teams that are more geared towards experimentation, that works better. So I've talked with one company in the Netherlands. They have a behavioral science group there, and they have started to do experiments. They wanted to get A, data, they wanted to understand what the situation was, and B, they wanted to understand what actually has impact. I know also at ComplianceNet, which is an organization where Danny and I are both active, where you get all the academics together, we've had practitioners for instance, of one major Wall Street bank. They have a whole behavioral economics unit that is doing experiments with this. And of course, in government, in UK, the Netherlands, we also have behavioral scientists on the regulatory side. So I think in part, it is about having these people that want to innovate, that can come internally from a company. I also see that government sometimes plays a role there. So I think some governments have stimulated more innovative forms of compliance. I mean, there's some good examples. I mean, one that we don't focus on in the book, but that I read about recently is Netflix. Their HR policy and compliance, I mean, there's a good Harvard Business Review paper on this. For instance, they have a very simple travel policy. I mean, I think it's 5 words. I don't know if I remember them correctly, but it's something like, don't do anything that hurts Netflix interests. And that's it. And for me, that was a striking example because it's sort of the opposite of what we see happens in most companies, which is they add rules, then there's more risk, they add more rules, there's more risk, they add more rules, and they sort of get into a spiral where there's less and less trust in employees, there's more rules, and because there's more rules, people have less trust in the business, and actually you need to keep more people in check. So I think those sorts of experiments, and I'm engaged in a similar experiment where we're trying to bring an anti-bribery policy from 30 pages to 1 page, to kind of say, okay, what gets lost and what do we add when we do this? So this is also with a company that says, okay, let's experiment. Let's team up with people in science and see what we can design and see what actually are the effects. And I think that's the way to go.
Amazing. And finally, remind us what the book is called and where people can find it.
It's called the Cambridge Handbook of Compliance. They can find it at any big seller online, like Barnes & Nobles, Amazon. They can also find it at the Cambridge University Press website. There's also a digital version they can get a subscription to, or ask their library to get a subscription to. And they can find the introduction for free as a free access paper, open access paper on SSRN, and we can send you a link.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Christian.